All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Patrick here with Church of the Eternal Logos, and tonight we're doing a little something different called open panel discussions. And so I decided, and I need to give a shout out to Jim Bob and Andrew from the Crucible. They're the ones that recommended me starting to add this type of new content into the mix. And so I'm thinking maybe once a week or so, we're going to just come up with a general topic. I'll try to introduce the topic, and then we're going to open it up to anybody and everybody can come on. Whether you agree, disagree, hate me, like me, doesn't matter. We're just going to have cordial, open conversations on the general topic. And tonight's topic is patriotism. Now, I thought it'd be an interesting topic to begin with because I have seen, even within the Orthodox community, many different perspectives on patriotism. And I recently did a conversation with the great Jim Jatras in which he talked about how in Orthodoxy, it's actually part and parcel of men to be patriotic of their homeland. Patriotism actually comes from fatherland. It has to do with a sort of honoring of the patriarchal tradition. So to be a patriot is tied to a sort of patriarchal understanding of culture and history. And so he mentioned, and you can check out our conversation, it was on Orthodox geopolitics, on the degeneracy of America. And so I did a conversation with the great Uber Boyo talking about, every man has to decide what is he willing to die for. And I came out openly and said, I'm not willing to die for the U.S. military, the U.S. industrial military complex, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, any of these people. I don't want to be dying for. So, I thought what would be interesting, though, is to open up the conversation on sort of what is patriotism, generally speaking, how Orthodoxy understands patriotism, how I understand patriotism, and then just open it up for conversation. But before we even do that, I want to give us a very, very special shout out to 3 individuals. The first one is AmpTown1. The next one is Well Emmanuel, and the third one is Ed. I want to give you guys a very, very special thank you for becoming YouTube members here on my YouTube channel. I just got these reviewed and activated today, so today is the first day you can officially become a YouTube member here on Church of the Eternal Logos. So I have 3 tiers. The first one is the General Logos membership. The second one is the Elite membership, which is basically the YouTube membership plus the $5 membership to my website, which has exclusive video content. And then the third membership, the Logos Premium membership here on YouTube, is the YouTube membership plus the premium membership over on my website. So that is now an option if you guys are interested. So I just wanted to say thank you very, very much to Ed, Well Emmanuel, and AmpTown1 for the support. I truly, truly do appreciate it. And I need 3 more members so I can add more emojis. I got we got emojis of Jordan Peterson crying, which I have not been able to upload yet. We have an emoji of Jesse Lee Peterson saying beta. We have the Ortho Chad. We have the Ortho Fitness Chad. We have the Soy Jack Atheist Fedora wearer. I have the NPC, the Re that Jim Bob made, the original, and then I have the Robot Hat, and then we have the Trans Soy Jack. Now I only have, I think, 4 or 5 up there, so once I get some more members, we'll definitely add some more emojis. But I just want to give a special thanks to everybody and promote that. So if you guys would like to support the channel and become a website member, you can do so now through YouTube, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate that. Okay. So again, I told you we're just going to go real quickly into this opening introduction before we just open it up for people to come on. And so I wanted to start with, what is the Orthodox understanding of patriotism? But before I do that, of course, you always got to go to the etymology. And so if you go to the etymology on patriot, it comes from the French. And it is directly from late Latin, meaning fellow countrymen, from the Greek fellow countrymen, or patrios, one's fathers, patris, fatherland. And so we see that, it's related to a paternal, a patriarchal lineage in regards to how we understand our nations and cultures. And so you can come down here and see... Okay, yeah. So anyways, we get that. And then I also wanted to highlight, I was looking over here on Wikipedia, and the opposition to patriotism, I thought was really interesting, and maybe we can tie a connection here, and maybe this will be fodder for when people hop on to discuss how there's been some loud voices within history that are very much against patriotism. Voltaire said it's lamentable. Arthur Schopenhauer said the cheapest sort of pride is national pride. If a man is proud of his own nation, it argues that he has no qualities of his own which a person can be proud. Okay, interesting. We have a famous Japanese anarchist of the late 19th and early 20th century, Kotaku Shusui. And he says, devoted a large section of his widely read Imperialism, Monster of the 20th Century to a condemnation of patriotism. One of the many arguments is based on the Confucian value of empathy. This is his writing. I am convinced, as Mencius, one of the famous sort of philosophers of Chinese history, that any man would rush without hesitation to rescue a child who was about to fall in a well. A human being moved by such selfless love and charity does not pause to think whether the child is a family member or a close relative. When he rescues the child from danger, he does not even ask himself whether the child is his own or belongs to another. Patriotism is used to dehumanize others who would naturally have empathy for, he argues. Patriotism is a discriminating and arbitrary sentiment, he says. Well, interesting. Of course, Marxists had their own thought on patriotism. And Marxists have taken various stances regarding patriotism. Karl Marx famously stated that the working men have no country. Ooh, that sounds a little bit like the Great Reset and globalism, if I might say. And so that same view, he says that working men have no country, and that the supremacy of the proletariat will cause them national differences to vanish still faster. Well, I thought I've heard a little bit of people chanting no border, no wall, no USA at all. And this was part of the Antifa fascistic, they say they're anti-fascist, but they ironically are more fascist. And they're interested in sort of deconstructing the idea of nationalism itself as a sort of a cancerous attitude in regards to global identity, so that we can move into this unified global framework, right? And so Trotsky also had such an idea, who is, quote, in favor of tearing down all frontiers and creating a socialist world commonwealth. On the other hand, Marxists, Leninists, and Maoists were usually in favor of socialist patriotism. Okay. So I only highlight this again, and so we look at how Orthodoxy understands patriotism. And as Jim Jotra said, Orthodoxy is actually quite patriotic. One, obviously, we're very patriarchal, so that's going to fit nicely with that concept. And here, I'll share this article with you guys here in the live chat. Anybody who's interested, I'll share this right here. So I want to say that, Orthodoxy says, we're all for it. Patriotism is a good thing. Loving, treasuring one's homeland and people, a sense of belonging, our own way of doing things, or particular gifts of God. Now, I want to obviously preface that I am in no favor of the military-industrial complex of the United States. Anybody who's familiar with some of the work by, Dyer, myself, Tristan Haggard, many Orthodox gentlemen who have been quite open about the atrocities and some of the negative attributes of the American imperial system, especially post-mid-1920s, post-World War II, if you will. And so since that period forward, there's been a lot of negative things going on in the name of patriotism in America. And we've seen the Patriot Act, right? We've seen how in our own country, patriotism has been used as a way to sort of dissolve the nation state itself. So individual privacy, the Patriot Act, post 9/11. Jamie Henshaw has talked about how Donald Duck was used by Disney to promote income tax for World War II. This was all due to, patriotism and your civic duty. Here's an American a pamphlet, of Be Patriots, sign your country's pledge to save the food. So I don't know the origins of that per se, but hey, Sumeria Anna has become a member. Shout out to Sumeria Anna. Thank you so much, Amptown 1, for gifting a membership. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. I truly do appreciate it. And so thanks for joining the crew. And thank you so much for Amptown 1 for sharing. Now, we got 4 members now. 4 members. We need 2 more so I can add the rest of my emojis up there. Anyways, thank you, Samaria Anna. Thank you, Amptown 1, for gifting a membership and becoming a member. I truly do appreciate it. And I want to mention that, again, I'm not saying that patriotism from an Orthodox perspective should just be blind allegiance to the nation state itself. Of course not. Of course not. From an Orthodox perspective, I would say that it has to do with being prideful of the traditions of your fathers, but taking what is good from your nation state, and that's what this article, this Orthodox article argues. You got to take what is good and incorporate it into an Orthodox phronema, an Orthodox worldview. And so this is eventually what we'll get into here, but I just want to read a few little things here. Is that Orthodoxy has always had a close bond with society and culture, so that faith is connected with life, not just with Sunday morning. Actually, the modern nation state with the sharply defined border boundaries has a relatively new development. Things were more flexible in ancient times, but Orthodoxy has associated itself with modern nations too. That's why we have a national Bulgarian Orthodox Church, the Romanian Orthodox Church, and so on. However, patriotism can also be dangerous. Father Schmemann wrote in his journal that one of the worst things that ever happened to Orthodoxy was its identification with modern nations, so that people cannot distinguish between the two. Like those who think to be really Orthodox, you've got to be Greek or Russian or whatever, or some evangelicals who seem to can't separate their Christianity from Americanism. When my wife and I were first looking at Orthodoxy 30 years ago, a Ukrainian Orthodox woman, a good friend, memory eternal Helen, asked me, why do you want to be Orthodox? You're not Ukrainian. Some I know, I was interested in Orthodoxy and visited a Greek church where the priest told him, I'm glad you visited. Now go back to your own church where you belong. This attitude called Philism, tribalism, an odd notion that Orthodoxy is limited to a particular tribe or culture or nation. It was condemned at a pan-Orthodox council in Constantinople in 1872. The great danger of Philism is that it limits Orthodox people to one narrow national way of looking at things. Orthodoxy is multicultural for all the world, for all peoples. Orthodoxy is super cultural. Wider, broader, deeper, higher, wiser than any one nation or culture. Our Lord Jesus Christ made this clear regarding Jewish tribalism. How often he made foreigners the heroes, the good Samaritan, the Samaritan leper who alone returned to give thanks, the Roman centurion of whom he said, I tell you, many will come from east and west and sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven, but the sons of the kingdom, the Jews, or us, if we are unfaithful, will be cast out into darkness. John the Baptist warned, if God needs a son of Abraham, he can rise them up out of these stones. And so it is if God needs Americans or if he needs Orthodox. So Orthodoxy in America, American Orthodox are not much tempted by Philism. This is not an Orthodox country, nor despite what we read, did the United States have a Christian foundation in the classical sense of that word. At the time of the American Revolution, only about 30% of Americans had any formal religious affiliation. The conversion of America to believing Christianity began in the 18th century with the Evangelical Great Awakening and continued in the 19th century with the arrival of many Roman Catholic immigrants. However, among well-educated Protestants of the 18th century and the predominant theology of deism, the belief that God was a clockmaker, created the universe, then largely left it running on its own, no miracles, please. I think many of the founding fathers was affected by deism, often gave God an impersonal deist title like providence, but they weren't consistent about it. They also spoke of his involvement in human affairs, also very much in the spirit of the times. Few of them believed in the divinity of Christ. Thomas Jefferson revised the New Testament, leaving out all the miracles. George Washington, an Anglican vestryman, never received Holy Communion. John Adams was a Unitarian. They believed in the social value of religion in general, but established no particular religion. I hate to tell you this, but in today's terms, many American founding fathers were religious liberals. I don't mean to disparage them or their work. Goodness, wisdom, intelligence, or political brilliance are not limited to Orthodox Christians. Okay, I want to continue here. As Orthodox Christians, how should we relate to non-Orthodox America? We should incorporate what is good here, which is a whole lot. The Orthodox Church has always moved into new lands and taken what is good in that culture and brought it into the church. Unlike Protestant missionaries who made Hawaiian natives dress like Scottish Presbyterians, American Orthodox women do not need to dress like Russian peasants, though they certainly may if they want to. Alaskan pagans had spirit houses in their cemeteries where they went to commune with the dead. Today, many old spirit houses have Orthodox crosses on them where the natives pray for the dead. Already, some good American things are being pulled into the Orthodox Church. America is in many ways a democratic culture. Americans like to participate. This is helping American Orthodox recover some elements of authentic ancient Orthodoxy that have been underplayed. More frequent communions, worship in the local language so people can understand and participate, more open icon screens so people don't feel cut off from the action of the altar, parish councils and national conventions so lay people can take their proper place in the running of the church, and more. Some churches appropriately have services on American Thanksgiving Day, and I think America's emphasis on freedom fits well with Orthodoxy, hard to explain unity and faith without external compulsion. But Orthodoxy also rejects those things in cultures which do not conform to our faith. Here are some things in American culture that we do not want in our church. If Americans have loose sexual mores, they are to become strict. Arrogance. Many Americans, both conservative and liberal, take it for granted that we are right and the rest of the world is wrong, and our job is to tell them how to do it. I once watched a visiting American Secretary of State on Greek television publicly tell Greek leaders exactly what they must do and how they must do it, and I could see by the Greeks' facial expressions that whatever she said, even if she was right, they weren't going to do it. Arrogance, even if it's unintentional as hers was, for she is not by nature an arrogant person, is destructive. Since we Orthodox believe we are the original and authentic church, we are tempted to be kind of triumphalism. We need to reject it. It will drive people away, or worse, it will attract proud, arrogant people. The Orthodox virtue of humility. The confusion of political freedom with spiritual freedom. In John 8, when Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free," the Jews responded, "We are sons of Abraham. We're not slaves to anyone." A sort of American equivalent, "I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free." Jesus answered, "I tell you, whoever commits sin is a slave to sin. If pride, greed, lust, anger, hatred, drink, drugs, whatever control you, you are not free. You can vote in every election and pray in every school and still be a slave. In fact, one can have no political freedom, no religious freedom, and still be truly free. Freedom from sin is the ultimate freedom." The modern American attitude towards money, it is taken for granted in our culture that money comes first. The purpose for many, the sole purpose of life, is to make bigger profits, get rich, accumulate as much stuff as possible, and have perfect kitchens. I refer to HGTV. The church calls this the sin of greed. American Orthodox are very tempted by this, to think that the measure of success is big houses, big churches, big budgets, big money. This is not compatible with Orthodoxy. I am glad that God has provided my church, St. Nicholas of Cedarburg, with the money we need, including 10% of its charities, but not much more. So the Orthodox mission to America: make Americans Orthodox. To make Americans Orthodox is to contribute to our Orthodox values and gifts to the society, our strong families, our theological and moral stability, our worship with its sense of mystery and wonder and being at home in heaven. So now, we got a new member. Shout out to the new cooler Will Smith. God bless you, brother, for becoming a member. We need one more member to add some more emojis. God bless you, the new cooler Will Smith. Thank you so much, brother, for becoming a member here on YouTube. I truly do appreciate it. Thank you so much, bro. And so the Orthodox Church has always been concerned not only with saving souls, but with the conversion of cultures, creating Orthodox societies. If God wills, we hope to convert the nation. In the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago, we were a small minority, but growing even despite persecution. And you know what happened? Today we are a small minority in America, but growing. In time, who knows what may happen? Hang in there for a few more centuries. For the sake of America and Americans, I hope that these things will happen despite all that Americans justifiably complain about. We are blessed to live here now. Okay, so this kind of sets the stage now for our open panel discussion today. And that is, what is the Christian role to become a patriot? As I said, patriotism, when you look at the etymology, has to do with the tradition of your fathers, maintaining that tradition, honoring that tradition. And we as Orthodox, we are mostly converts. Some of us are cradle. Most of us are converts. And so, as Jim Jatras said, it's part of our religious duty for men to sort of honor the tradition of our fathers, but then fight against the degeneracy. And so that's where I wanted to make my personal claim tonight, is that I do think patriotism has a role within our Orthodox faith, and I think it has a role for all men, and it gives men a purpose. But it's not an ignorant patriotism. It's not a patriotism that you're going to go serve the Marines today and you're going to fight for freedom and democracy, because we know there's a military-industrial complex that's promoting globo homo, that's what you're going to die for? No. Patriotism now, really, since we've already been taken over by hostile powers, I mean, the U.S. federal government is probably our biggest enemies. Look at East Palestine right now. So what we need to do then is become strong men of strong character and strong values to resist the degeneracy within this country, and try to, glean whatever we can that's good of this country and take that and blend that with our orthodoxy. So now let me open up the panel, and I'm going to share the link with you guys so anybody and everybody can join. This is for anyone. Anyone can join here. Let me see. So let me get the link. Please, again, anybody, this is an open panel discussion. This is a new format that I plan on doing once a week. Here is the link for the, to join. Here is the link right here. Let me add this. There's the link. Anybody and everybody, please join. Hop in. You got opinions. You disagree. You agree. Whatever it may be. We're going to turn this off and turn that on. Bam. Okay. Are we lagging a little bit? How's that? So anybody, feel free to hop on. Anybody? Let's see here. There's Chase. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Yo, doing good. Good to see you.
Good to see you, brother. Thanks for hopping on. We got a little new format tonight. I was glad to see you in the chat there. How you been, Chase?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Busy, but good.
Excellent. Oh, our other brother help out here. So what's up, man? You probably heard me talking a little bit about the opening there. What's your thought on patriotism? Obviously we are living in a time in which we have a hostile government, and there's not a whole lot to be proud of or to die for, in regards to our country. At the same time, do you feel there's a Orthodox imperative for men to be, useful conduits within their culture and to, make things better? I mean, what's your general topic or perspective on the topic tonight?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think, even every single day at every liturgy.
Hey, brother,
right?
Is your microphone connected? It sounds like you're a mile away. Check the Zoom audio.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
There should be a little arrow next to the mute, and just make sure your microphone's selected. You're muted.
I was just testing it.
We can hear you, and it's coming in a little quiet on my end.
What about this?
Oh, yeah. Now I can hear you. Yep.
Okay.
That's
cool.
it.
All right, sweet. I was saying you hit the nail on the head. I mean, every single liturgy, we pray for the country and all its people, right? Every single liturgy. And I think that identification with your nation as your brethren, in addition to the multicultural and supranational nature of the church and of Christ's work and of joining his body, is important. But in addition to that, it's recognizing that we have an economy together, we have an impact together, we have a community together. I have my city, I have my state, I have my nation, we have our planet, we have the church, right? And I think there's a reason that every single liturgy we pray for our country and all its people. Right. And I think it's interesting because, me and you have the same attitude about it, right? We pray for our country. We hate that our country's the hammer of the world and a tool used to manipulate and destroy and do horrible things. But we can still love our country, pray for it as a body of people. But there's a flip side to this where I think people, because we don't have any deep culture in America, right? We have a couple things, right? We have jazz music, we have blues music.
True.
But it's not a cultural practice in and of itself, that people go the other way with it. Where now you're starting to see a lot of people get disillusioned with a lot of the stuff going on, and they start fixating on the stupidest stuff like race, right? Yep. And these people, I think the reason that they're doing it is because they're seeing, well, I don't have a culture, I don't have anything to preserve. And instead of going, well, I can find that in the church, and I can find culture in the church and build, good cultural practices in my life and in my community, but my main culture is the church.
Right.
Instead of that, they latch on to the most superficial, dumb things ever, you
Right.
know? And
Yep.
and I think it's the flip side of abandoning, or either going too far with the patriotism
Right.
and the Philism, or getting totally disillusioned with it. And I think that that's a side effect. Unfortunately, I think we are going to see more and more of.
Yeah. And so I'm sure you've seen it too within the ortho circles. So many young men talk about how, oh, I got to leave. I got to, go to another country. I know your brother, Tristan, has in fact gone to another country and set up shop with his family. And everybody's situation is a little bit different. But for me, I feel obligated to be here for my parents. I feel obligated, they both probably would have been vaccinated if I didn't just hammer on them and not let that happen. My sister has a family and she has 3 daughters. And there's a sense to me in which, like, not leaving is a sense of patriotic Orthodox duty to just like resist. If, America is in a way the great Satan right now, and it is one of the biggest exporters of degeneracy through Hollywood and our corporations and all this different stuff, the military industrial complex. But where are we supposed to run and hide? Where are we supposed to run to? I don't think anywhere you get away from it. And in fact, I think it's an opportunity to rise to the occasion and resist it right here, right now, and try to protect and build with the people that I care about and with the people I trust.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, everyone's situation is different,
Yeah.
right? God may call someone to go move to, a whole nother country, someplace like Kentucky or something like that, some foreign backwater place, or God forbid, Indiana. But it's also an opportunity though, and when you look back patristically at, even the Council of Nicaea during the Arian crisis, this wasn't an Arian small little hiccup. No, this was a crisis. And if people had that same attitude, if our saints had that same attitude of, well, I'm just going to leave, I'm going to go somewhere else, I'm not going to fight the fight, then, and God wouldn't have allowed that because he's going to preserve his church, or he would have preserved it a different way,
Right.
However he would have preserved it. But we wouldn't be where we are now. And the things wouldn't have happened the way they did, iconoclasm too, right? If the iconodualists had just gone, oh, well, I'll just go over here and just do my own piece, and I'll venerate icons and I'll utilize icons. Okay, what now? Now this is spread everywhere when maybe you're called to be here and to be a change. And there's people, mutual friends of ours from the First Montanica who are from California.
Yep.
And even like Father Josiah's Trenum, Father Josiah's parish.
Yeah.
He talks about, hey, if you feel called to leave, but you guys can make an impact here. And over the next 50 to 100 years, we can actually make a big change because these people aren't having kids, and we can have kids and we can raise a strong community. Right. And this can change the course of a country over time.
Right. No, I totally agree. And that's one of the things Josiah Trenum says is Father Trenum claimed that, if Southern California is one of the most degenerate places in the United States, even more the reason for me to be here with my ministry and my church. And again, everybody's situation is different, but some of these kids I've seen in the orthosphere, especially on Twitter, they don't have a whole lot going for them. I don't know what money or funds they think they're going to move with, but they're like, oh, I'm going to go to Romania. I'm going to go to Serbia. I'm going to go to Russia. And, maybe that's your situation. Everybody's a little different, so I'm not going to talk about anybody specifically, but I think this is such an opportunity that if your nation is terrible, and your nation is the great Satan to a degree, and I don't know if you saw some of Putin's speech this morning talking about how the West is anti-nuclear family, anti-children, pro-pedophilia, all things that are true. He said, to our sacred text, marriage is between a man and a woman, which we agree with. We're Orthodox, so we have those sympathies to, the Russian state. But it's like, that means that we need to be here. We need to protect. We need to fight. And Uber Boyo came on. He said, what's going on in Ireland right now? They're actually resisting a lot of the mass immigration. And he said, if it wasn't for Donald Trump and some of just the American spirit that resisting, like he said, it would have never taken place in Ireland. And now we know that Donald Trump's a jab salesman, and he basically works for Big Pharma at this point. And he's definitely not going to be a savior, but it's like in America, we still have an opportunity to be a positive impact on people if we so choose it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you bring up the kind of, quote unquote, American spirit that while unfortunately, just voting harder is not gonna, go and solve everything. But what can solve things is, or not solve things, but can help move the needle in a certain direction is we are the media epicenter of the world. Even
Right.
even apart from Hollywood, TikTok, Instagram, all this stuff, the culture, the internet culture, people know what goes on here. And when you look at the lockdowns and when you look at when people here started going, all right, this 2 weeks turned in a little bit longer. I think I'm gonna start laughing at this and going out now. Instantly, other countries started going, you know what, us too. America's doing
Yes.
it. And they look at our people and they look at our culture. I'm not saying that, people outside of America think that, me and you are some knights in shining because we're American.
Right. Right.
Obviously not. They know better than us, seeing that we're, as a country, as a mechanism, we're very, destructive mechanism as a country, as an entity. But they look at our culture and the individual people, what they're doing, what's happening in American society as a beacon of freedom. And so even that, that can change a lot of things, being
Right.
that example just culturally to other countries.
Right, and the Kufa is a perfect example because I know people, just friends from Europe, for example, that here in Indiana, by the end of April, so I think the lockdowns began in March, about mid-March, early March. By the end of April, I did everything normal. I refused to wear a mask. I went to the gym. I went to the grocery store. I did my stuff, the usual stuff. And meanwhile, you look at what's going on at that time, what was going on in Europe, and it was crazy. But through social media, of course, now we know a lot of stuff was censored, but even through social media, there is, and this was in the Orthodox article by the Russian priest, there is a positive sense of freedom and like not being controlled by the state. Now, obviously, that can get radical, and that's what. And then that has been hijacked through the libertarian ideology that, oh, well, freedom to do anything.
Did you say idiotology?
Huh?
Did you say idiotology?
Well, it could be. I said the libertarian ideology, but yeah, it is an idiotology. That's for sure. That's actually a more clever way to put it, for sure. But you look at this idea in America that, oh, well, we're the land of the free. That means we got trannies and drag queen story hour. And that's not freedom. As the article said, that's slavery to sin. But we still have weaponry. We still have the opportunity to fight back. And that's why, despite the degeneracy of this country, America is still a different context when it comes to controlling the people because of the guns, because that we are still the largest standing militia in the world. If ever there's more guns in this country than there are people. And I'm not saying that's a salvational statement or that the guns are going to save us. Obviously not. But it changes that dynamic. And then with God, with family, with strong men having babies with traditional women, I mean, to me, that's a long win. I'm talking 50, 100 years from now, having 5 children who then go on and get married and have children, and they all are Orthodox and they're all brought up in a positive way in which they don't have these traumas that so many people are growing up with the drug addiction, abusive parents, broken homes, that it's like there is a real opportunity because the enemies are sterile and they want to be sterile.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember at the first Montanica, I think this was the first day, and there was a guy there who was like, well, what do we do? What do we do? And you responded to him. I responded to him. Dustin responded to him. All these people just kept saying the same thing. And what we said was how we got to where we're at. This was not a snap of the finger. And then, oh, boom, this is now the zeitgeist of the age is this materialistic atheism, hedonism with new age Gnostic nonsense. And you can do whatever you want. And that didn't happen overnight. This was a long, slow moving of the needle and the pushing of the boundaries to get where we are culturally and philosophically as a society. And guess what? Pushing it the other way, it's going to be a long generational movement of having, Orthodox people like you engaging with, Gnosticism and New Age nonsense and everything that you do, in my world, artists, musicians
Yes.
making music that's not degenerate, and then going,
Yeah.
hey guys, I'm also Orthodox Christian. I posted an icon. Someone goes, hey, what's that? Maybe this is cool. Maybe this is the counterculture, is Orthodoxy.
It is now.
And it is now. But and then having families, that's obviously the most important thing. Passing on your teachings, passing on everything generationally. But this isn't gonna happen in 5 years. This is
No.
gonna happen in 20 years.
Right.
This is gonna happen in 60 to 100 years,
Right.
God willing,
Right.
of
God
us
willing.
pushing the needle slowly. And this is the thing that maybe this comes from the kind of memetics that you talk about a lot, where
Yeah.
people think that, there's just going to be one thing that happens and then boom, everyone's based now. It's like, no, it's not going to happen. It's slow. I mean, look at your own life. Look at my life.
Right.
Oh, I joined the church. Great. Thank God. Now I have to work the rest of my life to be less of an idiot and to actually be Christ-like.
Right.
Now think about that on a cultural level. Come on.
Right. No, you're so right. And it runs counter to even the American spirit in Protestantism, which is like you can make this immediate proclamation of faith, American evangelicism, that you can get born again tonight and you're saved. You're ready to go. Everything in the past, it's gone. You're good to go for the future. And Orthodoxy, there is, nobody goes from not knowing anything about Orthodoxy to become Orthodox the next day, because that's just not the journey. The journey is long, it's drawn out, it takes time, it's sometimes difficult, it's interesting, but then eventually, then you go to the Orthodox Church, you're like, you know what, I'm actually ready to join. Okay, now you're a catechumen, and if you're lucky, we'll bring you in a year. And it's like, it's a different perspective. We have to get out of the immediate pleasure seeking of Americanism and the reaction seeking that we're going to get solutions right now. The problems we're in have taken a century to manifest to its fullest degree. It's going to take another century to create people to resist it and get out of it. And it's an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many ways. And this is where, because this all ties into patriotism. This is what we're talking about. We're going on, quote unquote, more in the weeds of it, but this is what it is I think true patriotism, one definitional aspect that you could add to it is the belief that God can use and wants to use your nation for the greatest good, because he does. And he wants your nation and everyone in it to repent and to participate with him.
Right.
And each nation, not that there is an exact, hard dividing line between nation and nation. Obviously, legality wise, there is, right, in laws and economics and stuff. But I think it's the belief that our nation and everyone in it, God wants to use, and he created everyone for a reason, for a telos, for a purpose. And he wants to use all of us. And that's going, okay, I want to be a part of that. How can I witness to my brothers and sisters, whether it's doing verbal apologetics or becoming the super holy babushka that just breaks your heart every time that you talk to her at coffee hour. And then she goes to the grocery store and she talks to, the clerk every day. And then eventually she goes, well, my church has a Greek food festival on Saturday. You should come. You should volunteer. You never know.
Exactly.
I think that's what true patriotism is going, I want my nation can be used by God in whatever way he sees fit, and I want to participate with that.
Right. And I think Orthodoxy aids in a sort of patriotic spirit because of the patriarchy. So it was ironic that I saw, again, Marxists, generally speaking, and obviously globalists, are very much in favor of dissolving the nation state, and they're promoting this incredibly feministic ideology where, this patriotic spirit is tied to an honoring of your father and his father and his father and his father, which is exactly how the church is structured. And so it's like, you have the opportunity. You want a pro-masculinity? Well, be honest about the degeneracy of your own nation. Whether you're Samoan, whether you're Serbian, whether you're Japanese, every single man needs to be patriotic for his nation and become the best version of himself and try to resist the darkness of the evil wherever it comes from. Right now, our country is one of the worst in regards to the people who run it and what they export to the world. But every man. If you're Samoan and you're on the, you're in the island of Samoa, become the best man you can. We still believe Orthodoxy is the truth. So therefore, I want to convert as many people to Orthodoxy as possible. But Orthodoxy allows you to maintain your culture and also honor God and also keep your national identity and what makes you unique as a person. You don't have to dissolve back into the globalist hive mind where everybody, everybody's going to be born of a white woman and a black man, and we're going to all have no culture.
Yeah. No, and it's interesting that, this ties into how you brought up Philism at the beginning of the conversation. That's not what patriotism is.
Right.
It's not trying to do the LARP of like, I'm going to return to I'm a Viking. I'm going to return to all this. It's having that belief, having that pride in your nation and being a representative, like you said.
Right. We have a couple super chat. Welcome, Seraphim. Can you hear me, brother? Sounds like you can. Your camera's off, but we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the first time I'm using Zoom. I thought it was like Discord. It became green when I spoke, but...
Well, on my end it is. Everybody that's watching is seeing a green box around you, but we got a couple of super chats. Well, hang out here, brother, just for a sec. I'm going to read a couple of these super chats. First one comes from the very busy Dr. Vagisil. Throws in $1 and says... expatriate only if you have family in the country and are compatible with the culture and language, as well as having a close-knit rural community that you can raise a family in and trust your neighbors and defend and have a high trust. And that would be your brother being a perfect example of living that rural life, having land, having cattle, really living an ideal, I won't say off the grid, but certainly a more homestead lifestyle that's more natural. And so he's a perfect example of that. And then the work that he and his wife have done in regards to promoting diets and homesteading, incredible stuff. So I would agree
they didn't
with...
get out there as some rush away from something, right? Like they visited, they loved it, they stayed another year. They stayed another year and they go, you know what? I love it here. Let's stay. And then now they're like, yeah, I don't have interest in coming back to the States, but they weren't running from something.
Right.
And
yes.
I think that's something that
crucial point. Nail that down. That's huge.
Yep. Yeah. Anytime. And not that I'm wise or anything like that, but when I was younger, when I was, like 21, 20, I would always be kind of running from something, moving around a lot. I moved around a lot from like 18 to 21, and you never try to run from something. You need to be moving towards something. You need to be moving towards God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think the rhetoric of these Orthodox guys talking about how degenerate our country is, how based Russia is, and how they're going to leave, and all this. It's like what? That's a cowardice. And there's nothing like the evils that you're running from are everywhere. That's why no matter where you're at, people are resisting it. So at least the good people are. So it's like running away from a fight. It's like. Eventually you'll get away from the bully, but eventually he's going to get you too. So just stand up. That's the only way you face a bully. That's the only way you fight darkness. That's the only way Christ, saved the world. You have to face it and then be Christ-like. And then whatever may happen, may happen. Are they going to lock us down and put us in FEMA camps? I don't know. Are we not going to be able to get on the internet in 5 years because we're all going to have digital identities that are going to tie to our health? Maybe. I don't know. But I'm not leaving, and I'm not leaving my parents, and I'm not leaving my nieces, and and I want to get married, and I'm going to die with the ship, and that's my salvation. I feel like it's my providence.
Yeah. You can kind of think it like before Rome became Christian, imagine if the saints had all, went to Ethiopia or something, Rome would have stayed pagan to this day, maybe,
Right.
Things like that. There's only one way of, fixing things. And they won't fix it by themselves.
It's a good point. I think there's a lot of parallels between the Christians within the Roman Empire and Christians within America. Feel free, if you guys. We got some more super chats. Joseph Newton throws in $20. Shout out to Joseph Newton. He says, I have never looked into Orthodoxy, but I'm doing it now. Thanks for all the information, guys. Well, glory to God, and I hope you continue to look into it. And it's a journey. We don't do proclamations of faith. You're not going to be born again overnight. It's a journey. Just keep looking into it, learning, studying, and go to a liturgy. That's the whole thing, is go to a church and just check out a liturgy and just stand back and watch that. Unfortunately, I have had people reach out to me due to this Philism in Orthodoxy. And it's been the Slavic churches and the Greek churches. I've got multiple emails, especially from the Greek church, of people saying, yeah, I went to there. It was really beautiful. I didn't know what was going on, so I felt awkward. I stood in the back. But afterwards, I went to fellowship, and nobody said a word to me, and I felt like really uncomfortable, and I left. I don't know if I want to go back. And it's like, that's not Orthodoxy. That's not how it would be at my parish. But if you go to a parish like that, that's where I feel bad, because I've got multiple emails from people, like they had such a poor experience from the people inside the Orthodox church they attended that it made them feel so uncomfortable after the liturgy, not during the liturgy, after the liturgy, because nobody wanted, to greet them, give them a hug, say, hey, welcome, where are you from? Glad you came. Why are you here? This is what it should be. And so the Philism is a problem. And I think being American, Orthodoxy in America is an opportunity to really dissolve that Philism, because we're all becoming converts. So now, especially if you go to an Antiochian church, we don't have a whole lot of Arabs in this country. So if you go to an Antiochian church, it's majority American converts. Everything's in English. And it's like it sort of, it gives a true understanding of how Americans can unify in Christ. That's the only way we can unify, not through Republican, Democrat political system that you said we're going to vote harder. This is idiocy.
Yeah, and it's sad you say that, because it's absolutely true about people having that experience at a Greek church. I go to a Goark church, and my priest is awesome. His brother's a priest. His dad's a priest. And actually, in my whole little area, all of the Goark priests are really based, and they're awesome. And I bring up every once in a while, like, hey, Elpidiophoros did this. And they just go, pray for him. And, and they're great. They're great. But I have a friend at my church who's he's older. He's super social. First time I went there, and this was over, 3 years ago. At this current church that I go to, I started going to in 2019. He came up to me at coffee hour and was loud and funny, and was, very goofy and stuff. But then all these other people, and I already knew this from other churches because I had just moved to the area. All these other people were like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Are you Greek? Are you Greek? Are you Greek? All of these different people asking me if I'm Greek. And I had to explain to them. I said, hey, look, I already knew that the Greeks were, and I'm not a controversial figure in my parish. My friend, the loud one, is, but I ruffled some feathers because I said, hey, look, I already knew that the Greeks were like this. And I told a bunch of them, I go, you guys need to stop this, because, we have 9 catechumens at my church right now.
Oh, I'm sorry, glory to God.
11 catechumens at my church right now.
That's awesome.
Never has my church ever seen this before, and it's due to work from people like you, Jay, Father Ananias. You
too, man.
People.
I mean, you're doing great in your debates. The one you did with that atheist chick, dude, that was not an easy debate, because it's very easy to get irritated by people like that. Sorry, go ahead, Seraphim. I apologize.
It certainly wasn't easy to watch.
I appreciate it.
I imagine it was way harder to be there.
Yeah, you were a great representative of the faith, man. You were calm, you were clear. For those of us who had ears and eyes to see and hear, you were totally making sense. You were making strong arguments. She had no idea what you're talking about, and it just came down to like condescending retorts by her. But you didn't get out of character, and you didn't represent yourself in a poor way.
I appreciate that, but and I'm going to do more debates eventually. But I was just going to say that I had to drill it into these people's heads after, my godson and his girlfriend and our other friend first started coming to our church. Yeah. I had to drill it into their head saying, even my and this is before he was my godson, before he got baptized, said, even them who are a part of our community now, I did tell my priest, even they said, the majority of people asked, are you Greek? That was the first thing that they asked. And they're very sweet. My parish is very welcoming, right? But it's like, dude, why is that the first thing that you're asking anyone? This is so stupid. Right. And guess what? Like, you work in a dentist office or something. Have you even read Aristotle? I mean,
That's a great point, dude. That is a great point.
Like, have you read Plato? Have you read Socrates? Any of these? Like, no, you haven't. I'm actually more educated about this stuff than you, not to be cocky, but I had to explain to them lovingly, like, you guys need to stop. And if you go to a parish like this, it's between you and God and you and your priest and your spiritual father. But sometimes love is going, the way you're behaving is not welcoming to people coming into this church. And guess what? You're Orthodox first, not Greek. And this needs to change. I'm sick of it. And I pissed a lot of people off in my church. Some people were mad at me for like 2 months. They're fine now. But sometimes you need to do that.
Right. I think that's
there's also a thing about this, you know. David mentioned the Antiochian church. Chase mentioned the Greek church. And the thing is, as Chase said, you know, a lot of Greek parishes are more normal in regards to that. They aren't very Philitistic. But for example, you could find a Philitistic Russian parish. I'm not saying this as a disclaimer or something, because people have to kind of be prepared to. You can find that at any parish, and you can go to a Greek parish where they are cool with you. You know, I'm Brazilian. You can see I'm speaking on my broken English here. But
hey, you're doing great,
here,
bro.
Yeah, I'm trying. But here, for example, our big diaspora jurisdiction is the Antiochian Church, you know. For you guys in the US, you don't have a lot of Arabs there. You go to the Antiochian Church, you find a lot of Americans. Here's the inverse, you know. All the other parishes are full of Brazilians, but the Antiochians are full of immigrants.
Oh, really?
But that's normal, you know. Yeah.
That's funny.
We have I never had an experience of that happening to me, you know. I'm a convert, so I was baptized last month, I think. 1 or 2 months ago. Yeah. I'm in the Polish church, which is one of our native jurisdictions. You know, we have a native Brazilian bishop.
Okay.
And I never had this sort of experience, but people should be ready, you know, to find that everywhere. Maybe you go to a Serbian parish and you can find people like that, you know. I only say that because I'm a very young guy, and I see some young people being like, oh, the only parish near me is a Greek church, and I heard bad things about the Greeks.
Hearing that so much.
Yeah.
Done it to themselves, though. This is the thing.
Yeah. It's kind of a self-sabotage thing, but people should still just go there anyways, you know.
Yep, that's what we always tell people. You know, it's like if the only church near you, the people suck. I apologize for that, but
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yep.
Get in the church, you know. And it is it's funny though, because the Greeks definitely, not to knock my Greek friends, you know, because I have a lot of them, and I love my parish. I have a great parish, a great priest, but they did it to themselves. They're liberal. They're ethnophilites a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I'm not talking all Greeks, but in America, a lot of them are. And they're kind of the laughing stock of Orthodoxy in America, where everyone goes, you Greeks? OCA? Come on, dude.
It's true.
Even here, we barely have Greek parishes, but even then people get this sense of, oh yeah, the Greeks, you know.
Yeah. Guys, stay with me. We got a few more super chats. Dr. Vagisil threw in another $3. It says, patriotism means loving your country enough to orient its path toward godly values and speak up when everyone starts eating Z-bugs, karate chopping hot dogs off, and getting off to gold standard / Zoom streams are a great idea. Be encouraged and strong. I like that.
That's well put. Karate chopping hot dogs.
I did want to mention we had a new member join. Shout out to Veramos. God bless you, brother. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member here on the channel. David Franco Jr. threw in $4.99. It says, can a Hispanic male like Frankie D be patriotic for the traditional U.S., or should he move to Mexico or España and be patriotic there? You guys want to take it, or you want me to start?
I think it's whatever. I mean, the way I understand it.
He can come back to here if he wants to, you know, go south of the border, but that's not really needed.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chase.
I was going to say the way I understand it is that, you know, of course, like, if you have a culture, if you're blessed enough to have a cultural heritage, you know, Patrick, I don't think you have any connection to your cultural heritage, probably.
I'm mostly German, and I have nothing besides the girl that I hope to marry is German.
Yeah.
So my girlfriend's German right now.
Yeah, I mean, which is like,
that's
glory
about
to God.
It. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's no cultural
No
connection
culture, yeah. It's
whatsoever.
all American.
I'm super Dutch. Like, for an American, I'm very, 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 very Dutch. I have zero connection to Dutch culture at all. If you have a connection to Brazilian culture, cool. Those cultural heritage, those cultural practices are actually, if they're positive, they're an insulation against manipulation and the breaking apart of your family. But either way, you're in the nation. You should be praying for the nation you're in and trying to better the nation you're in.
Right.
Yeah, even then, like, even if you are a Hispanic in the U.S. or something like that, you can love the U.S. if you want to. It's kind of weird if you just ignore your Hispanic and just pretend, yeah, I'm grateful for this land, we've built. You don't need to be dishonest about it, but you can love your heritage and love the U.S.,
right?
Things like that. Even here, Chase mentioned. It was you, David, that mentioned you didn't know, you didn't have a lot of connection to your heritage.
Yep.
Like, I'm half native, my father is native, and I don't know anything about that, like I wasn't raised in a tribe or anything.
Right.
It's the same thing,
Right.
But
yeah, I would say I actually know Frankie D, so God bless him. And so I know this is half of a joke, but seriously, for a Hispanic male though, like, you guys have actually been part of American history. And so the point is that this, is to find patriotism in embracing your American Mexican heritage, right? So it's not like defining these delineations between all of it, but realizing that it all kind of goes together. And so you're not fully Mexican, but we have a lot of Mexicans here that have blended their sort of American identity with their Mexican identity, and then bring that into an Orthodox phronema, an Orthodox perspective. I don't see how, as long as Orthodoxy is the house in which your patriotism is housed in, how it's not going to be beneficial for everybody around you. And so when we see like patriotism becoming the house that the religion is inside of, like, again, I would say like the Orthodox priest mentioned, American evangelicals with their Americanism, that's when you're going to vote harder, because Trump's female priest is waving her hand and she's speaking in tongues and saying how, she's being led by the Holy Spirit. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get like this in the name of secularism, you're going to get this like image of trying to like break down those distinctions between secularism, but at the same time be proud of secularism and it's a convoluted worldview.
I will declare this new dealership.
And like, but this thing you spoke about, being Hispanic and being Hispanic American. We here, I mentioned we have a lot of Arabs, and they are here for a long time. They came from during the Ottoman persecutions. We have a cathedral here in my city that's 100 years old, from the Arabics built at the end of the First Great War. And, they are completely assimilated not assimilated, but like integrated into the local culture,
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows we have a lot of Arabics here. They speak Arabic still. They have their traditions. They go to an Orthodox church. Some are Maronites or things like that, but, I only know the Orthodox ones. Yeah. And they don't have a sense of Arabizing people. They don't have anything like that, but they just feel completely Brazilian. They are completely integrated. People are used to seeing Arabics here. And they are, it's not like
they still have their cultural practices.
Yeah. It's not like the Arabics in other places,
Von Chief.
It's not either or. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead. I was just going to welcome Von Chief on.
It's not an either or. It's always framed as these Hegelian dialectics.
Exactly.
Not an either or.
Yeah, exactly. Von Chief, welcome, brother.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. Where are you at in the world?
Great. I'm in the Midwest.
Oh, okay. You're in my both me and Chase's neck of the woods.
Yep. Yeah. California native, but I've been shipwrecked in the Midwest for the last couple of years. So,
well, how's that experience been?
Good. I mean, my wife is from here, so that's kind of what drew me this way. So,
what's your thoughts on patriotism? Should Christians be patriotic, or how do you understand it?
Yeah, it's a complicated subject just because of, the country that we live in. It's not like we're in, Tsarist Russia or something like that, or the Byzantine Empire. That's a government that's more favorable to our religion. So I guess we have to try to navigate it as best we can in like a secular country that's democratic. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. This is something, honestly, since I became Orthodox a couple of years ago, I really struggled to like figure out what's the best way to approach it. I feel like at like a local level, politics are always important. And that's really the way I look at it now is kind of at a local level, focusing on affecting politics locally. And in terms of nationally, I mean, like you guys have been talking about for years, national politics is kind of out of our hands for a lot of reasons. So I think really probably the best we can do is affect politics locally.
Yeah.
Focus on that.
I totally second that. Chase, Seraphim, you guys got anything on that?
No, nailed it.
We have a few more super chats here. Next one comes from David Franco Jr. as well, and says, Revelations mentions flee from Babylon. I think there may come a time when fleeing is appropriate. Okay, well, how do you guys understand that? I'll start off. When I hear that verse, fleeing from Babylon would to me mean not getting, the mark of the beast, fleeing from the beast system. I don't think that, whether you're in China or the U.S., fleeing to one of those countries is really a difference, or fleeing to Brazil, or fleeing to Russia, or fleeing to Greece, fleeing
doesn't mean
the beast
it's a geographic
system.
thing.
Yeah, the beast system's already there all around us. I would interpret that as fleeing Babylon would mean fleeing participation in that to the best of my ability. So it's going to come down to life or death, getting the mark.
There is this text that they read at Father Turbo's podcast, in which they one of the Roman bureaucrats at the time said that the Christians are like tourists in every country they're in. They're like foreigners. The Babylon doesn't necessarily mean something geographic. I mean, at the end of everything, when the Antichrist is on the world, there won't be a place where he, where he wouldn't be noticed,
Yeah, and there won't be nation states. Like there's going to be 10 regions, which the World Economic Forum already said that's their plan too. They're going to have 10 regions around the world. U.S., Canada, maybe Mexico is going to be one region. South America, Central America is going to be a region. Africa, it's like there's not going to be a geographical place to flee to because all the nation states are going to be broken down. That's why I think there's an interesting connection with patriotism, patriarchy, and like male paternal resistance to this system, because it's an opportunity for salvation. Maybe some of us are going to be martyred. Maybe some of us are going to be killed for not getting the mark. Maybe, who knows? But if you resist it in the name of Christ, at least you have the opportunity to the kingdom.
Well, it's interesting you bringing that up, because I think that when you don't have, if the United States is just this big conglomerate of just the United States, right? We usually think, yeah, I'm American, but then we go, okay, no, I'm in the Midwest. No, I live in California. I'm Californian, right?
Yeah.
I live in Oregon, so I'm a hipster. Whatever it is, that's the way you're going to think. And when you actually think in that way and you go, well, I am this, I'm from here, I'm in here, it makes you almost get that patriarchal attitude towards it, going, no, I need to defend this because I am a part of it.
Right.
It literally grounds you.
That's a big part.
I'm from the ground of California, this region.
That perfect way to put it, Seraphim. Yeah, patriotism in the land you come from grounds you.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes you have to kind of hold your ground too, because in the last couple of years, I've heard a lot of people talk about, moving to Mexico or some little place where like they'd live kind of a more undisturbed life. And I get the draw there, but at the same time, it's like, well, if literally everyone took that approach, then what would that even lead to? I mean, sometimes it's better, like I said earlier, with the kind of locality, like, just trying to maybe the right thing to do is just, stay where you're at and try to make the most of, your local parish, your neighbors, helping them out.
The last time all the good people fled a city, got burned to the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
That's true.
And what David said before, maybe you could flee to a better country, but you have an opportunity to be saved. God put you in the place you are for a reason. You can leave, you're not bound to it, but at least your path starts somewhere. You gotta keep that in mind,
Yeah, people should consider it could be a cross for the cross for them to bear.
Right.
Yeah. Like, for example, you could at the end of everything, you could be in Russia or in Greece that has a millennium-old Orthodox tradition, and that may help you, but you may have the opportunity to be saved by helping the people around you who have no connection to this tradition,
Right.
Not helping in the sense of you going there, knocking on their doors, doing the Jehovah Witness thing.
Maybe
that works where you are.
It could be giving them firewood when the grid goes down. It could be
just listening to someone, talking about life with them. Just not necessarily talking about the church, but living the life of a Christian.
Right. I totally agree with that. Next super chat comes from Santi's world, actually. Santi throws in $20, says, God bless, brother. Well, God bless you, Santi. Even though we had differences of opinions on your Gnostic position, hey, welcome, brother. We're glad you're here. Participate in the community. Feel welcome. You don't have to be Orthodox to join the live chats and join. I appreciate it. Santi says America is the best option now. I've heard that. I mean, maybe that's a good starting point for you guys. I mean, where if you could choose to be anywhere in the world, where would you choose?
I don't want to be anywhere I would choose to be. You know what I mean? It's like if I get everything I want, things aren't going to be good for me.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I was born on the same city I live right now. We are blessed to have a lot of parishes here. I don't even know what would I do if I left here. I know most of the Orthodox people from my city. All my family is here. I can't see me going anywhere else, because I could go to maybe life turns to a different way. Maybe I'll become a monk somewhere. Maybe I'll go to some place. Life is going to have to make that turn for me, because I can't see me going anywhere else. You can go to a place, a beautiful place. You can go to a holy place, but sometimes you got to make the place you love holy and beautiful, in the way you can.
Agreed. Von Chief?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind being in some beach house back in California, but that's not where I've been put at the moment. So, I don't know. I can't really complain. Where I'm at, and I don't know. Like, sometimes, like, I fall into that fantasy of thinking about, would a different country be better? But then I kind of bring it back to, I don't know, like, what's better? Like, is it going to be better for me just materially, spiritually? Is it gonna, I don't like it's. I think all the people that take the flee approach, they just want it's to like escape, what they think of as hardship. But I don't know, maybe that's kind of like the cross to bear. David, I remember you had like a stream a while back. It was with the Wrangler School guy, and he was talking about like riding the
Dwayne
bull.
here.
You gotta like. Yeah. He was talking about riding the bull and how, like, you get the score for like the tougher bull or whatever, like you get like a better score.
Yeah.
I always think about that, man. That was like a really prophetic little bit. Like, it's such a great analogy,
Yeah.
So, I don't know, like, again, like going to, some beach in the middle of nowhere or whatever, like, sounds great, but maybe that's like, that's not the bull that you need to ride right now. So
I mean, some people talk about how when they win the lottery, that destroyed their life.
Yeah,
that's
that happens all the time.
I mean, like, yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, I think about, sometimes, oh yeah, living in some beach house or something, but I think it's important just to remember how we end the Lord's Prayer, thy will be done. You could be called to move. You could be called to move to another country.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know. All you guys talking about
for sure.
All you guys talking about the beach houses. I'm on my beach house, on my tropical country. I'm very happy here. But yeah, I was thinking about it. I kind of zone out a bit, not too much, but Von Schief was talking about the whole mentality of the people who want to flee, and I'm on a third world country, a lot of people want to get out of here, want to go. Even a lot of people think that their dream is to go to the US, if you can imagine. But there's even a kind of a slur used inside here, they say someone who goes to the US, because they don't want to fix things here, don't want to make it better, don't want to try here, they are stray dogs, And in a way, that's kind of what really happens, Stray dog has a different connotation here. It's a vira-lata, like the dog that turns the cans, searching for food. They want the scraps from the other countries. And that's kind of a thing that can happen, you can move to like Romania or something, and you can have a good life there, without a doubt, you can have a good life anywhere. But, if you move to a holier, a more traditional country, and you stay the same, you're just going to pick up the scraps there. And it's going to be the same thing as if you were in a good parish, maybe in a bad place, or something like that.
Well, I love that stray dog analogy, because no matter how much I like Japanese culture, if I move to Japan, I'm not Japanese. They know I'm not Japanese. I know I'm not Japanese. Doesn't matter how fluent I can speak Japanese. That's just not my identity. And so that's where I think, just looking at it from God's providence, if you're Kenyan and you're born in Kenya, that's your providence. That's your identity. That's your people. That's your land. And Orthodoxy is growing in that place. Uganda, Orthodoxy is growing quite rapidly. And so Orthodoxy is making real strides in Africa. And so it's like we just have to find Christ, and we have to defend our lands. And even if you don't know Orthodoxy, but just by being a good man and defending people from the darkness and the degeneracy that's out here, you're moving in the right direction, and providence is going to continue to unfold in your own life. And so I think the stray dog analogy, it's like, be with your pack. Why be a stray dog?
I mean, you can be a stray dog if you want.
If you want, yeah.
But the way things tend to work, most dogs are in a pack. And, there's nothing inherently wrong with doing that. But you can make your life very difficult by doing it in a way you wouldn't kind of think before it actually happens to you,
Right.
And you mentioned Kenya, Uganda, the first Brazilians to be baptized were, it all happened like 30 years ago, Before that, it was a very closed church for immigrants. So, things are starting everywhere. New missions, new conversions. You can make it work anywhere, I'm in Brazil. Carnival season's happening right now. You wouldn't want to see what's happening on the streets there, But even this place can start, having a native clergy already with bishops and everything. Our bishop says that our church can already be recognized when we start having saints, because we already have a significant number of parishes. Right. It can all happen everywhere. I mentioned in the chat way before I got here, but the United States isn't a holy place right now. But even seeing a place such as the US having holy people like Seraphim Rose, I mentioned him specifically because he was an American, born in America from an American family.
Right.
And he lived a life. He did everything. He was a holy man. My bishop calls him a saint. I don't know if that's what people do regularly. But Saint Seraphim was a holy man. He lived a life. He did everything. He didn't need to go anywhere. He could have went to Russia if he wanted to, but he stood where he was. And now all around we have a holy place. You guys have a holy place in America because of him. His monastery there. And a lot of people will try to follow that path, and they create other holy places or continue the life where he went. And that's the start of something,
Right. Next super chat, I think, actually ties to what you guys are talking about. Simon the Amputee throws a $9.99 and says, God bless, gentlemen. I hope to see you at Montanica. And I would say Montanica is part and parcel of Americans trying to gather and meet each other and acquire this Orthodox identity within American context. And Father Turbo is going to be there this year. It's from June 7th to 11th in Butte, Montana. I hope you guys sign up. Tickets are going to be available soon. Talk to Father Deacon Dr. Ananias. But one of the things, in Chase, he went for the first year. What we do when we get there is it's so empowering and relieving to meet all each other, because we all see, no, you don't have to tell anybody about, the agendas at hand in the world. We all are on board. We get it. And then it's like, well, what are we going to do? And it's like, meet each other, build community, actually meet each other face to face, move on from just handles online, which is great. This is the beginning point. We can meet online, and then that's because Montanica wouldn't exist if YouTube and Twitter and Instagram didn't exist for us to create content and find each other. But now that's the goal, is like, find each other, find all the Brazilians, find your Russian brothers, find your Japanese brothers, find your American brothers. Whether in America, it's different. It's a little bit different than Japan, because being American isn't anymore tied to an ethnic identity. And so Santi's talking about, his country was, or his home country, or his ethnic country. I don't know what he was saying, but he was saying, I'm a brown American now because I'm going to stay here. I'm not going back to where I came from. But that's part and parcel of what America is, to its detriment and to its betterment. It's an amalgamation of people from around the world. And so now it's just like in America, that's why it's like we have an opportunity to be a sort of a real Orthodox outlet for the world by look at all these people from all these different backgrounds, from all these different ethnic communities coming together in the name of Orthodoxy, and just like deciding, this is what I believe in, this is who I am, and I'm going to die for it. And that's where my foot is. It's like, look, I'm not going to get the jab. I'm not going to get the mark. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to be kicked off the internet. That's my whole, that's my whole business. I put all this, I don't know. It's in God's providence. I'm going to do what I know I need to do today. That's the way I treat people. That's how I talk to people. That's my prayer life. That's my health. From there, I can't control anything, but, I feel like that's the only thing we can do. And being in America right now, it's an opportunity to demonstrate what it means to resist and be Orthodox.
Yep, absolutely.
I think the point of Seraphim Rose is a great one, honestly, because you think about him. I mean, he didn't flee when he converted. I mean, he was just up in Platina, Northern California. I think he was baptized in San Francisco. So I mean, he basically just did all of his ministry work up in Northern California. And, what if he had just been like, oh, I'm going to peace out. I'm going to go to Athos or to Russia or to a country that's more favorable to Orthodoxy. Would he have had like the impact? I mean, obviously his legacy in like for Orthodox in America is immense. I mean, probably I feel like almost every Orthodox American knows his name, and it's like his and
not
his
just
dedication.
In America. He's it's a lot of people, just seeing a guy in the New World's coming up like that.
Yeah, no, all over the world, but I think especially to Americans, to people like, I mean, I grew up in California, so when I started to learn about Orthodoxy and him, I mean, he was like extra special to me. So, I mean, like, what better example than him? And like I said, his impact was just insane.
And that's why Serbians love their Serbian Orthodox Church, because when they look at their Serbian saints, it's people from their land that drank water from those streams and rivers, that ate food from spoke that language. And so we need more American saints. We need more American saints that are born American, that stay in America and die in America, so that it's like, and then maybe they are Mexican American, maybe they are German American, maybe they are Brazilian American, but that's what then can allow America to be a symbol for the world resistance from a Christian Orthodox perspective, is that, we are unified in Christ, but at the same time, we don't have to give up our unique identity. You don't have to give up your Serbianness. You don't have to give up your Brazilian culture. You don't have to give up your Russian culture. Keep it. That's the part of the patriotism that has to go along with our theology and our worship.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I gotta head out, but I appreciate letting me jump on. Good to see you.
God bless you, Chase.
Bye. See you guys.
Take it easy, brother.
Yeah, good talking to you.
Next super chat comes from Rusky B. Throws in, hey, welcome, David. Good to see you, bro.
Thanks, man. Sorry, I don't really have much to say. I thought I had some things to say earlier, and I think I kind of forgot them.
It's all good. Hang out for a minute, man.
I'll hang out.
Next super chat comes from Rusky B. Throws in £5 and says, Americans simping for Russia is like saying your dad could totally beat up my dad. They should instead say, my dad's kind of drunk right now, but he'll get better. I love that. I really do love that. You guys got any thoughts? I mean, I think that's hilarious that, it is. It's like we can recognize that, in a way, America's drunk right now. The tradition of my fathers is drunk right now. But, how cucked is it to be like, well, your dad's stronger than my dad, so I'm going to go to your guys' land and I'm going to join Russia, even though I'm not Russian and I can't speak Russian.
It's and even then, you could go to Russia, and there's nothing inherently, holding up Russia. It could go in a bad way, not wishing, ill will to anyone, but could be that in 50 years something bad happens to Russia. What are you gonna do? Move again?
Exactly. Mr. Mendoza, welcome, bro. You hear me? There you go. Audio's kidding. You hear me, bro?
Talking to me?
Yeah, Mr. Mendoza.
What's up, brother?
What's going on, my man?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. How you been, man? What's your thoughts on the topic?
Brother, to be honest, I just jumped in. But you guys are talking about how this sort of blending of cultures and this loss of identity, but this opportunity to create.
Yeah, patriotism.
Identity.
Yeah, so what kind of spawned me to create tonight's open panel stream was on Twitter. I saw, countless comments under a tweet about how I'm going to move to Russia. I'm moving to Eastern Europe. I got to get out of America. America's Sodom and Gomorrah. And nobody here has defended the degeneracy and the exportation of global homo out of America or the military-industrial complex. That is not what we consider patriotism. And so the idea was then, to me, I was looking at these young guys, and I'm like, well, why are you guys running away from the problem that is going to just chase you no matter where you go in the world? And so wouldn't it be better and more orthodox to just stand up and resist it? And then the next day I had Jim Jotras come on, and that's what he was talking about. That, there's a story of an Orthodox saint, a Russian saint in Japan, and the Russo-Japanese War broke out. And his congregation there in Japan said, what are we supposed to do? Because he had to leave to go support Russia. And he said, you guys are Japanese. Go back to your capital. Go back to Japan and fight for Japan. I'm Russian. I have to go back to Russia. And this is an Orthodox perspective on how we blend our orthodoxy with the providence of where God puts us as we're born, our heritage, our language, our people, our place, and how that's an opportunity. It's a salvific opportunity to resist the darkness no matter where you're at in the world. And therefore Orthodoxy gives you a sort of, in a way, a nationalistic lens to house your patriotic identity within the larger church, Orthodoxy itself. So Orthodoxy comes first, but then it allows all these different rooms, if you will, for if you're American, if you're Brazilian, if you're Russian, and you get to maintain your culture, you get to maintain your identity, you get to maintain your language and support your people, but you have to fight the evil. So you can't be Russian Orthodox and not be against all the abortions, right? They're the largest country in the world that has abortions.
Russia, wow, I know that.
Eastern Europe, and it's due to communism and a sort of cultural habit that I think at the height of the USSR, on average, I think every woman had about 3 abortions, and so it's still really high. I don't know if they're still. Last I saw, they were the largest. If you included them within,
it's the
Europe.
highest in the world.
Yeah,
it's
still
decreasing, but
it's still the highest in the world, and it's so. And it's not that I'm against Russia, of course not. And we all see through the Ukraine-Russia thing, it's not even, and that's where I get these dumb comments from people. Oh, yeah, you're Orthodox? Well, look at your Orthodox brothers fighting. Dude, Ukraine is NATO. That is the Western global homo elite. You know, it's just a puppet. You know, it's just a puppet for, and then Russia. And so the real question is it an authentic war? Is Russia authentically resisting it? Or is it just a catalyst for the Great Reset? And it's I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on, you know, the heart of Putin and if he's really, I don't know what it is. But all of us, so if you are Ukrainian, you got to fight it. You're a young man. I'm not saying you got to fight in that war, but you certainly got to fight for your people. And you got to fight in regards to fighting degeneracy. So do I think we should join the military? No. Absolutely not. America, I wouldn't want to die for the U.S. Army or for the military industrial complex or for Hollywood, but I am going to die for my parents, for my sister and her family, for my wife and my kids. And that's patriotism. And that's my relationship with my dad is patriotism. My connection back to the land and my neighbors and my community, that's patriotism. And so it gets back to what Von Schief was saying, is that it's really about local identity, establishing yourself, grounding yourself, and allowing your orthodoxy to be roots that can grow other things around you.
You know, David, you mentioned the war right now. Before you mentioned Saint Nicholas. And I remember of a saint, you know, Saint Lazar, the Tsar of Serbia. You know, I'm trying to connect some points here, but you know, he lived right during the time when Constantinople fell, and after Constantinople had already been took by the Ottomans were going to invade Serbia, and he had a choice. You know, he had a vision, and he was told to choose between his kingdom on earth and his kingdom in heaven. And he chose to stay with his army. They were all martyred by the Ottomans. You know, the Serbia is not a very large nation, but you see, he could have done a lot of things. You know, he could have just fled. He could have left his country. You know, he could have become Catholic and asked for help. He could have done a myriad of things, but he chose to stay in his country. You know, without much temporal hope of doing something. You know,
right?
There wasn't any real chance of him driving the Ottomans out of Europe at that point. But he stood there, and he created a whole. This event is called the baptism of Serbia, actually, you know, baptizing the blood of all the soldiers that died.
Right.
And he created a whole image to pass Orthodoxy forwards to the next Serbs that came after, you know.
Right. Yeah, and I want to clarify, you know, Jimbo Khan made a point that I agree with. He said dying for Zelensky is like dying for Biden, and I agree. What I meant for, if you are Ukrainian, I'm not saying you got to fight the Russians, but you just got to, figure out, and I'm not saying I have a solution, but what's best for your people. That's this difficult situation about Ukraine is most people don't realize that country is basically split in half in regards to its identity. You know, the eastern half of Ukraine speaks Russian. The western half of Ukraine speaks Ukrainian. There's been an effort to to sort of nationalize those Eastern Russians. And that's why people in the Donbass, that's why they wanted Russia to come in. Because what the Ukrainians were doing to them after the revolution in 2014 was killing their own people. I mean, horrific things, burning churches with people in it, and you could hear them scream. That's what Ukrainians were doing to Russians. But, that's what you just got to figure it out. I'm not saying this is a clear answer. I don't have an answer for everybody, but I think patriotism, especially for all the young men converting to Orthodoxy, being in America or Central America or Eastern Europe or Western Europe, if you're a German, for example, if you're a German man and you're now Orthodox and you look at your country, this is an opportunity. It's an don't flee Germany. They have terrible degeneracy there and homosexuality and trans clubs and all that stuff. And they were propagandized from the moment World War II ended. So Germany got hit one of the worst places with all this progressive crap. That's your providence. Don't move somewhere where people don't speak German. Use your German identity. And so I think it's an opportunity for men to realize that, wow, Orthodoxy is a calling where I can take on the identity of my providence and my people, but begin to try to sanctify it and fight against the ills that my own people may be promoting.
Yeah, I understand the impulse to want to flee right away. When I was, especially in my new age phase before, it was before I was, I had Christ-like values. Yeah, especially when the pandemic hit, or it's like, we need to go somewhere. Where? I don't know, but somewhere that's not here, somewhere that's not, California, the United States. This place is going to shit. But in the, in the back of my head, there was always the rebuttal to that. Well, it's like, well, everywhere you go is going to be like that, or at least anywhere that I bring myself to without actually repenting, right, of my ways, of my degeneracy, of my immorality, of my sin. I'm going to bring that too. It's like all the mass exodus of liberals from California that move to places like Texas, but vote the same way and sort of distort the culture, corrupt the culture, that's there, maybe just in a political sense. But I think we can see this play out in all sorts of ways. And I can relate to Santi in the chat too, because I'm Puerto Rican by birth.
Okay.
Born in Puerto Rico, raised in Florida. I live in California, and I look kind of white, kind of not. I'm like, Puerto Ricans out here think I'm white, and then I'm in Puerto Rico now. When I'm out here, people talk to me, and they competing for a white.
It may not look like that to Americans, but that's what happens, in Hispanic countries in general. A lot of people that are 100% not white in America are 100% white in Hispanic America.
Yeah, literally. So it's this weird dynamic where I'm like, I don't know, I don't know. I don't have people have lost that, including myself. We've kind of lost that, or at least me as an immigrant. We don't have that patriotism that you're talking about. But I think adopting, like you said, adopting Christ-like values, it makes me want to take on that armor and fight for something,
Right.
whether it be my country or my family,
Right.
Prior to that, I didn't really have a solid ground to stand on. Something is, that saying, if you don't stand for anything, or if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
Now I feel like Christ has given me that solid ground to stand on, a ground that I can defend.
Right.
Something to defend.
You said
against.
something too that I found really interesting. I don't know if you did that, thinking about it, but you mentioned that you could go anywhere, but if you don't repent, it's not really going to matter. And we have this understanding that sin corrupts things around us.
Yep.
So you can kind of, it gets kind of silly if you use that example. The Californians moving into the other states, their sin will still come with them.
Right. Well, we already see that with Austin, Texas. I don't know. Again, you guys are out. Seraphim's outside. I think everybody else is here in the U.S. But Austin, Texas just had a night where they basically drag racing, a bunch of organized crime just sort of took over the streets and overwhelmed the police where they literally couldn't stop it. And that had never existed until all these California transplants and that culture has moved to Austin, Texas, which is a blue section surrounded by red within Texas. Now, again, I'm not trying to make a dialectic between Republican, Democrat, red and blue. I'm just saying that those values, you're saying, those Californian values, they didn't repent from. They just found a place that they can still live their California lifestyle without stepping over all the homeless people. But it's your values, it's your sin, it's your degeneracy that brought all those homeless people to be there on the sidewalk.
And you can kind of, I'm not trying to make too much of a drama about it. But I went to the US once, even the air has a different vibe to it. It's the surrounding of people really are changed by that. Not saying that I went from the Holy Land of Brazil to the US. We have a lot of problems too, but every place has a different type of corruption to it, And that corruption isn't going there isn't a place you can go right now, excluding for a parish. A parish has a holy thing to it.
Right.
But you can have a parish full of sinful people that will bring that sinful, that will make the ambience sinful in itself.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you, bro.
That's the
I'm
same.
over here,
Yeah,
and I'm in vacation, in Puerto Rico, and every time I come here, I just get reminded. I'm like, wow, like these are my people. Like they're lively in spirit. They joke around. They're like you can mess around with a complete stranger, right? Like kind of just like poke fun and
even right now, we have this urge to speak over each other, which is like normal in Hispanic countries, even here in Brazil, and we have to we have to behave in the polite society of the American panel. But
yeah,
you can bet that we are like we're hands trembling here, wanting to interrupt people talking, because that's just how we do. Each place has a different way of doing things.
That's funny you say that, bro, because speaking with my mom, I notice how much she talks about herself to the point that it makes me like cringe sometimes, because we can be in a group.
That happens here too.
We can be in a group and everyone's like sharing, and then someone could say something, and she'll always relate it. I mean, I think it's a way of relating, right? But it's like a low tier way of relating to someone, to only bring it back to you and kind of revert the attention, or just kind of just take the spotlight or whatever, just make it about you, always trying to one up somebody. Like, oh, I have a friend that works with this famous doctor. Oh yeah, well, I have a friend that works with 2 doctors. And doctor is the best doctor in the island,
But that's the thing. Like we all do those sorts of things, subconsciously, because that's just how the way culture is around us. I'm sure Americans have their own eccentricities to them also. It's a common thing, like in Mediterranean, posterity countries. We just speak over each other, and that's how it is. And this is just how things work. Americans are a way. That is exactly a thing. We were talking about Mexican Americans before. The Mexican Americans are still kind of Mexican, kind of Hispanic. They will do things that regular Americans wouldn't do. But they are still in a different context. It's just like me. I won't go around saying to people, "Yeah, I'm a native, bro. Yeah, look at my tattoos. I'm not going to do the whole LARP thing, But it is what it is. I didn't grow up in a tribe. A lot of Hispanics in the U.S. aren't, Mexicans. They never, saw the country. But they have a different identity to it. They have a different particularity to them. And it is what it is. I don't want to derail too much the stream, we was talking about.
It's all good. We got a few more super chats here. Veronica throws in $10. Shout out to Veronica. Thank you very much. She says, "Good evening, DPH. Can you tell me the acceptable manner to greet the Father at my church? I tend to freeze when I'm approached, and I shake hands, hugging, kissing. Oh, am I shaking hands, hugging, kissing, bowing? Thanks." So that just depends on your relationship to your priest. You don't have to go up to your priest and put your hands out and ask for a blessing every time. You can, if that's your relationship. The parish is a place to feel comfortable. You should feel, welcomed. So, when I go to different places and I meet priests, I shake hands. If I don't know them that's here in America, especially men, that's just what you do. You shake hands, you walk up to a man, you look him in the eye. Hey, I'm this or that. When I know a priest, then I can ask for a blessing. If it's my priest at my parish, I give him a hug. My priest is 90. I've been with him for 4 years now. He's one of the best men I know in my life, and I give him hugs. I love him. That's just how we are. But Veronica, don't feel overwhelmed. Don't build it up too much. Like there's an acceptable or unacceptable way to approach your priest. It is what it is. So if you feel more comfortable shaking hands, shake his hand. If you feel like you have a rapport with him and you feel like hugging him, give him a hug. If you feel like, you really honor him and you want a blessing from him, put your hands out and ask for a blessing. Do whatever you feel comfortable with. Bowing, no, you don't have to bow. We don't usually bow in regards to a priest. We ask for blessings and stuff like that. In America, kissing is not our common culture. I know within Slavic cultures and Greek cultures, kissing on the cheek, stuff like that, that's much more common. At least for me, I've never kissed kissed a priest or a bishop or any clergy.
Yeah, we do that here. We do that
Okay,
here.
I've never
Clergy.
kissed.
Yeah.
I've never bowed. I hug, I shake hands, and I ask for blessings. That's usually the one of those three is usually my approach if I'm coming up to a priest.
But even then, you wouldn't just kiss the cheek of a priest you don't know. For just giving a example of a different culture, with the priest here at the parish I go to, I ask for a blessing, and I hug them, and we give the three kisses on the cheek to each other. And it is, if I go to another parish, I won't just go there, especially if it's like an Arabic parish. Maybe they don't do that, in their culture. But you have to, you can just ask when you are more familiar with them, If it's the first time you go to a church, you don't need to ask. But at the second or third time, you can just ask him, what is the proper way to greet, How do you do that here?
Yep.
Yeah, one day after a really good sermon, I felt like hugging my priest, and I asked him, hey, when I went to greet him, I said, can I give you a hug? And yeah, he welcomed me with open arms. But it's not that we hug every time, but
right.
That day I felt like hugging him, and he received it, and it was fine. And, yeah. So like you were saying, DPH, I don't think Veronica should have any trepidation or this sort of, feeling like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. You can't mess up. Most priests are pretty humble and welcoming.
It's kind of part of the priest post, he kind of reaches out to you, if you are uncomfortable, you can just ask, if you don't ask, there will come a day where he will notice you are uncomfortable and he just tell you what you should do. But, you can just ask.
Yeah. Go ahead.
DPH, could I ask you a question real quick, bro?
Yeah.
It's not totally related. Maybe it is, but it's why I jumped on. Because while I'm out here, on the island, I was looking for an Orthodox church. The closest one to me was I believe it was an Oriental Syrian Orthodox church.
Okay.
And I was under the impression I'm baby Orthodox.
That's not.
Well,
I'm baby. I thought, Orthodox. Okay, this is. I was expecting, because back home I attend a Greek Orthodox.
Right.
Parish. So I was expecting, the same divine liturgy, the same service, and
a little bit different.
When we get there, I'm like in this weird, like Catholic, freaking Orthodox hybrid. This, I'm like having flashbacks of when I was growing up, seeing like these Catholic hymns and prayers, and I was like, whoa, hold up, what's going on here? I was like, this is not, and I was telling my sister because it's her first time going to an Orthodox church, and I'm like, it's awesome, it's this and that. I was kind of telling her what to expect, and then we get there, and I'm looking like an idiot because it was not anything like back home. I mean, there were some things, that were similar, but my question is, if you can just expand on just the differences between each, but again, this whole it's confusing because they also claim apostolic succession,
and they have that.
A lot of
they do have that.
In a historical sense.
Yeah. So the big breaker between us and them is what's called Nestorianism, and they have what we call a monophysitism understanding of the of their Christology. So it's a Christological term used to describe basically that the person that incarnated, there is only one nature. Okay. So
as opposed to two, divine and human, or what?
Yes. Now like Nestorius or Nestorianism, there's Miaphysitists, there's Diophysites. So I believe I am not an expert on these things. They're part of the Church of the East, so they rejected the Council of Chalcedon. Okay, so they have apostolic origin. This is true for the Armenians. This is true for the Syrians. This is true for the Ethiopians. All these groups are what we would call East Orthodox, but they were part of the Church of the East, so to speak. Now, Ethiopia is a little bit different because they are kind of outside the context of the Middle East or the Church of the East and how that spread. But, Miaphysitism is the doctrine that holds that it is fully divine and fully human in one nature. Now, we believe Orthodoxy holds that he's divine nature, human nature, one person. So it's like,
right.
where do you emphasize the singularity at how these things are united? Do you emphasize that he unites them in one essence, two essences, in one person? So you have the monophysites, the myophysites, and the diophysites. Orthodox theology is a physicist or physite Christology.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're diophysite, and we believe in a divine nature and a human nature in the single person of Jesus Christ. Now, like I know people from Ethiopia and Eritrea that go to my church, Antiochian, and for them it's very similar. So they have the icons, whereas you went to a Syrian church, maybe had more Catholic elements to it. You weren't expecting some of that.
Yeah, the thing is that the Oriental churches in general, like in Hispanic countries here, are very Latinized because of historical issues. But it's a bit it's more easier to discern that it is an Orthodox here.
It almost
Here in
felt like,
general,
at least in this parish, it felt like they almost like trying to appeal to Catholics because it's Puerto Ricans are predominantly Catholic.
Yeah, that's what tends to happen. It's not really just trying to appease them.
Right.
Even a lot of the Oriental groups in the Middle East itself were very Latinized. But it's a thing. In the US is a bit they're more similar, it's less Latinized, especially because you don't have the incentive to, the US is not Latin. But
so my following question is like, what are the ramifications of believing one over the other, for like these, like, how do I say, like these, I mean, I'm sure, Eastern Orthodox versus Oriental Orthodox, they can both present their case and their arguments. Ultimately, like, should we be concerned about who's like right or what? How do we approach these things? Like, should like, I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but I'm just like, how do we know who's right? Because I want to be in the.
Let me explain. Church. So Nestorius, and again, I'm not an expert. From my understanding, Nestorius believed in two persons.
Okay.
So a divine person and a human person in regards to Christ, and this was part of his teaching. And so he was technically a diophysite, but again, he was a bishop that rejected the Council of Chalcedon. You have the Miaphysites, the Miaphysites, which believe in one essence. So then you get like Doceticism, which is the idea that Christ was fully God, but he wasn't actually man, and that was sort of an apparition or a way that we could relate to divinity. He wasn't really human. He never really defecated. He didn't really have human genitalia. He wasn't really man. Then you have the other side of that, which is like Arianism, which says he's really man. He's not God. He like attained enlightenment. He was like the highest that a man could be. See, focusing on one nature over the other, choosing one over the other.
Over the other, right.
Then you have Miaphysitism, which is going to be focusing on that Jesus, one person, two natures. And then you have the diaphysites. Well, why is that important? Because it gets back to theosis, the energy essence distinction. How do we participate with God? And if God was fully man, fully God, he'd have to be that for us to cross that bridge. And so it comes back to really, really subtle but important distinctions in regards to Christology for how are we saved and how do we actually relate to God. If God was a man, theosis doesn't work. If Christ was only God and not man, it doesn't really work. If it's just two persons and two essences, that doesn't really work because they're not unified. Nestorianism. So Eastern Orthodoxy says no, it has to be personhood, which is made it three persons, one essence. Personhood is a very important point, which we start our theology, and then it's two essences, divine essence and human essence, being brought together in a single person through the hypostatic union of Christ, that we can then cross into eternity through the participations of the uncreated energies.
Sure.
So
the Orientals, do you know like the Orientals soteriology, and is it like because of the fact that they have that distinction in the nature of Christ, like would they don't have theosis. Do they have theosis?
There are Orientals who believe that, but it's not an established thing like it's for us. You know,
Right.
you can certainly believe that, but they don't. Their presupposition don't deliver you to the final point. You know,
Right.
you can believe in theosis if you want to. From our point of view, it doesn't make sense for them to believe that, but it's kind of an open issue for them.
Right. And so, and that's where Orthodoxy, we're not Catholics, where Catholics said salvation was only, well, this was before Vatican II and Pope Francis and all this stuff. Before it was, you had to be Catholic to be saved. Now, you know, they're basically syncretist tradition, but they localize salvation within the Catholic Church, allegiance to the papacy. Protestants then was about proclamations of faith. Both of them then make judgments on non-Christian or non-Protestant or non-Catholic people. Orthodoxy takes basically a middle road between either one. We say we are the true church. It's provable that we are the historical tradition developed by the apostles. We are led by the Holy Spirit. We know that the Holy Spirit is inside of our church. We know that the one church of Christ that is going to not be defeated by the gates of hell by the time he returns is going to be Orthodoxy. But we don't make claims about the salvation of non-Orthodox, other Christians, Oriental Christians. There's going to be Oriental Christians that make it to the kingdom that have no idea what the hell we're talking about in regards to theosis or the natures of Christ. Because that's not what you're going to be judged on. You're not being judged on how well you know the theology. It's about your heart and the purity of your heart.
Yeah, it's kind of silly thinking about a very poor Coptic farmer. You know, you go to hell, bro. You don't know.
No, I'm gonna say. I was gonna say I can't imagine my poor little grandma that prays her rosary every single night with fervent devotion going to hell. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't imagine that.
We can speak against like Western devotions, but it's not like, oh yeah, like grandma, she isn't going to make it, bro.
Yeah. So just to clarify, miaphysitism, a single nature that they choose. Doceticism, Christ is only God, not human. Arianism, God or Christ is only human, not God. That's miaphysitism. Miaphysitism is fully divine and fully human in one nature. And we would say that's sloppy philosophy. That gets into Aristotelian categories. That's where it's like, it's really, this is what the church fathers are trying to hammer out, though, because we believe that Christ's revelation is logical and rational. So therefore, if it butts up against an illogical non sequitur, well, then that can't be the true nature of the revelation. So we would say, no, miaphysitism isn't the answer too. So then it's diaphysitism. And so diaphysitism is the two natures, one person. And that's where we break from Nestorius, who is also two natures, but he had two persons. We believe it's two natures in one person. So again, you see, these are four different categories dealing with Christology, and it can get very intricate and detailed. But again, Orthodox, we do not claim that somebody in the Syrian church is going to hell. We do not claim that Catholics who have allegiance to the papacy, because again, what we claim is we know that we have the Holy Spirit. Well, we don't know where the Holy Spirit is not. So we can't make a claim that the Holy Spirit's not in America and in evangelical. We can't claim that the Holy Spirit's not in Ashbury right now in Kentucky and bringing these Protestant people I don't know what's going on there. But as Orthodox, if we're following God, we're not supposed to be making claims about what God can do and not do.
Sure. Definitely. I think that's another thing that drew me to the church is that element of humility. Because all I've ever heard is, it's either it's Jesus or hell, it's like it's that Protestant type, brimstone and hammer type, brimstone and fire type.
Yeah. And I'm not an expert. Jay Dyer would speak much more eloquently on this topic, because this then is a whole body of literature and history that you could dive into. That's an aspect of Orthodoxy I have not spent a lot of time diving into.
Do you know what was what the Council of Chalcedon was on? Like, just briefly, what was?
Well, it had to do with Christology. It was hammering out. Okay. Yeah, it was hammering out.
It was addressing the issue of the persons. It was the first council addressing the hypostasis in itself.
Yes.
Like, yeah, are there one, two, what's going on this sense? Because the councils only address the stuff when they they kind of come up, you know. There's no need to
And it was the fourth
know,
council. Okay, so
Okay.
Chalcedon is the
Yeah.
fourth ecumenical council.
Nice.
It's the fourth. I thought the fourth was Ephesus. No, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. But
Here, let me look it up. I'm pretty sure it's the fourth. Let me see.
oh
I
no,
thought I
yeah,
heard- I thought I read it
because the Copts accept four. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. It's late here, guys.
No, it's all good, bro. It's all good. I mean, these are good questions for people listening and marking through. I mean, this is part of everybody's journey.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Let me look. Yeah. It says it was the fourth ecumenical council of the Christian church. It was convened by the Roman Emperor Marcion. The council convened in the city of Chalcedon in 451. The council was attended by over 520 bishops and their representatives, making it the largest and best documented of the first 7 ecumenical councils. The principal purpose of the council was to reassert the teachings of the ecumenical council of Ephesus against the heresies of what is it? Eutychus and Nestorius. Such heresies.
Eutychus.
What is? How to say it?
Eutychus.
Okay.
It's Greek.
Such,
Greek to English.
if it was in the Greek, I could read it. Reading it in the English, it's like
Greek.
It's
Greek to English
EUTY.
doesn't work.
I don't, and then CHES. Such heresies attempted to dismantle and separate Christ's divine nature from his humanity, Nestorianism, and further to limit Christ solely to divine nature, monophysitism. So you see, it gets back to this, and that's where they were making. That's where the church fathers and Orthodox. These people weren't uneducated, so they're making deep theological arguments on the Christology for why theosis is the way. Because if you break this Christology, how do you directly interact with God, and how are we saved by the engagement of those uncreated energies? It has to be a single person, and it has to be both natures. Just to put it simply, then you could, if you want, you can look up the council. There's whole books, huge books written on this stuff that will get into the real nitty gritty of the details.
Yeah, it's insane, man. I had no idea that there was such a rich history behind this stuff. You know, it's like I don't know how much I don't know.
And one thing that helps, kind of grounding that whole historical parts of it, is that a lot of the saints that are very prominent in our iconography are the saints who were involved within these houses. You can see, especially now with Great Lent coming, Saint Gregory of Palamas will be commemorated. He's not from that time; he was from way later, but he was a father of some of the later councils. Saint John Chrysostom came before that. He was a very well-known father. He was a very well-studied man. He studied at a pagan university, and there was I forget who were the fathers of the first councils, but you can see a lot of people talking about Saint Athanasius from the first council, Saint Cyril of Alexandria from I think the third one, maybe, the fourth and fifth, somewhere, at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So you would say that, would you say that, when it comes down to it, the reason why we believe the Orthodox Church is the true church is because of the coherency of the paradigm?
Yes. Yes.
Gotcha.
And that logic leads you up to the revelation of the mystery. And so we don't have a logical category for how you become God by grace, or how the bread and wine becomes the body and blood. We don't have doctrines like we don't have these rational boxes in which we try to fit the theology inside of. However, what we do is use logic and reason to take us to the limits that it can give us in regards to the mystery then. So you encounter the mystery of Christ. How was he fully God and fully man in one in hypostatic union as a person? I don't know. That's a mystery. We're not going to, because that's beyond those categories. That breaks.
Sure.
But you can use those categories and use logic to say, if that were to happen, if God became man, it would have to be this way to merge everything into a single person that then we as persons made in the image can cross into. That would have to be the way it works. So Orthodoxy is incredibly logical, but also incredibly mystical. So that's where, again, it's always both and, right? So the West got wrapped up in rationalism, especially post Protestant Reformation, 1517, moving into the Enlightenment, but they lose their mysticism. So you look at former Protestant nations, and they're all really the biggest spiritualities like New Age and occultism, because that is mystical. Now, I would say it's also demonic, but it's mystical. Protestantism doesn't offer a lot of mystery. That's why Pentecostalism took off, because then it's going in the opposite direction. It's all experience and mystery and lacks logic and reason. And so, right. So Orthodoxy is both and, is trying to use the limits of rationality and logic to understand something that then is transcendent in a total mystery that we can't comprehend.
Yeah, epic. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's part of the appeal for a lot of people, including myself, to the New Age. Is this we're just completely lacking the mystical aspect of.
Yeah, you can kind of see things happening, experience things. It's not as dry as a I have my weekly Bible study and that's it. That's the whole spirituality too.
Right. Yeah. And that's where Orthodoxy, it's so deep that however deep you want to go, it'll give you that. If you don't want to go that deep, you don't have to, right? All you have to do is live a moral, righteous life, believe, and go to church. Take the Eucharist, be part of the family, be part of the body of Christ. You don't have to know all this stuff. But if you want to, if you're like, that's where Orthodoxy and then you can enter into it anyway. So some people enter into Orthodoxy through the aesthetics, go to liturgy, see the icons, see the beauty, see the architecture, see the songs, the hymns with no music, only human voice. Okay, maybe that's their entrance. Maybe other people, it's the highfalutin theology. Well, we got that. Maybe it's just the presence of God and coming to tears during a we got that. It's like it's all these doors. Wherever you're at, God can meet you there. You just got to make the first step.
Yeah, that's funny. At the Oriental church, they busted out a guitar, and I was like, that's when I knew for sure. I was like, hold up, I'm in the wrong place. I was like, oh, hell no, what's going on here?
Well, gentlemen, we got a few more super chats. I'm going to wrap it up. Philo throws in $2 and says the Lexus LFA is the only car that represents the Trinity. And I think it was that Philo had the muffler on the Lexus LFA is like 3 mufflers, and so there's like 2 and then 1 underneath it. So I think that's what he was referring to because it was his profile photo. But thank you, Philo, for the $2 super chat, brother. Warren Hesse throws in $10, no comment. Well, thank you so much, Warren Hesse. God bless you, bro, and thanks for the support. And next one comes from John Bowlerman, throws in $10 and says, God bless, brother. Well, God bless you, John Bowlerman. Thank you very much, bro. I truly do appreciate it. And the last super chat we have here comes from Valentine, throws in $5 and says, great topic, DPH. Love your work. Well, thank you very much, Valentine. Thanks to people like you, I'm soon to become a catechumen. Well, glory to God. Excellent. That's great. Again, I'm humble if I helped in any way. Keep up the great job. God bless you. Well, God bless you and your family. And that's phenomenal to hear that you're going to become a catechumen. And it was great to hear about Jim Bob's family and the impact he's making on people by just being honest about his own journey, because this Orthodox thing is not something that happens overnight. I've never met anybody that doesn't have a journey. It's a journey. It's a process. You begin wherever you're at, but it's your own curiosity and will to move towards God that's going to only bring you into the church. Then it's going to bring you further. Then you're going to decide to become a catechumen. Then you're going to go through that process, and then you're going to. That's the only way. It's a process. It's not a New Age or a Protestant, born again experience. It's not psychedelics. It's not something that you do or have this credible mystical experience for 4 to 6 hours and now your life's changed. You could have a mystical experience, but it's a process. It's a process that demands your participation and your attention.
Yeah, it's not the local Protestant church that I visited that said, yeah, just sign your name here and you can get baptized.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, this is not right.
You guys got any questions before we hop off or any topics? I mean, I got a couple more minutes here. We've been running for 2 hours and 14 minutes.
Well, one last question. I'll hop off.
Ahead, man.
So coming from a Catholic background, I did the sign of the cross, Father, Son, left shoulder, right shoulder.
Yeah.
When I went to my with my parish, Greek Orthodox, the priest corrected me. He said it's right, left.
Yep.
Could you expand on that a little bit? The differences, is it really important? Is it?
It is important. It is important,
Yeah.
and the way you hold your hand. So you cross yourself like this, and this represents the three persons of the Trinity, and these represent the two natures of Christ. So you see that whole docetic, monophysite thing, all that stuff. Again, it's already right here in the way we cross ourselves. Three persons, two essences. So one person took on two essences. And so you hold your hand like this, and it's up, down, and then right, because where does Christ sit? He sits where?
The right hand of the Father.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we don't do it backwards.
Right.
Because the theology is expressed in everything we do.
Is that an inversion, doing it left, right?
Well, we would say it's certainly not traditional, and it's not representative of the theology. How does that make sense?
Oh, so Father, Son, is it Father, Son, Holy Spirit?
Sure. You can do that. Yeah.
Well, do you say something with it, or
yeah? At an Orthodox parish, every time they say the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, you cross yourself. I often cross myself every time the Theotokos is brought up. We don't worship the Theotokos. She's not divine. She is the perpetual virgin who said yes to God, and an icon then for all of us fully human entities of what we could become by being humble and submitting to God. And so she is the mother then of God because she gave Christ that human nature. Not that she gave birth to the Logos. The Logos pre-exists creation. He was begotten of the Father before all worlds, right? You know the creed. So we don't worship the Theotokos as a divine entity, but she did give him his human nature. And so, that's the way we hold our hands. We do it from up, down, right, left. And so I've heard people, I don't know how this is understood, but again, Christ goes from the heaven, the Logos, incarnate, to the right hand. But we say Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right? So the cross itself is a revelatory of the life of Christ. From the heavens into creation to the right hand.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. I've never heard it explained that. Cool, man.
I don't know if the church, I've heard people say that, so but it's an easy.
I think,
go ahead.
I think I read something about how, I can't, I don't have a camera right now, but when you have your hand on your right shoulder, that's when you would say the Son, because the Son is to the right of the Father. So the Father will be up, down, the Son on the right, the Holy Spirit on the left.
Right, that's kind of what I was getting at, because when you say Father, Son, when you say Son, you're here, right?
Oh yeah,
Holy
you don't.
Spirit,
That's not the necessary. You don't need to do the rhythm.
It's not that legalistic in the sense, or that you do it here when you say. It's not like that, but
you don't need to worry about that too much.
Right, it's revelatory. That's where Orthodoxy is like every piece of theology, more the theology is within it. So even the way you hold your hand. Now we see the Trinity, we see the personhood, we understand the natures. Everything Orthodoxy does is and that's where the West hates it, because we don't have just definition. You can't just open a book and then find the definitions of how the Orthodox world works or our theology, because everything is interwoven. And to what King Pilt said today, it's a beautiful tapestry where everything is inside everything else.
Awesome, man. It's like, it's kind of like the unity that I was seeking in from like the New Age monistic perspective, but a lot more coherent. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, the unity is not, on the concepts, on the things you do,
Yeah.
You can see the whole of the
guys. Great talk. Good night from Puerto Rico, man.
Yeah, God bless you, man, in Puerto Rico. Take it easy. Hey, David, you got any comments, man? You've been quietly chilling.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any comments. I was going to ask, because you guys were talking about that.
Ahead, man.
I see a lot of in the iconography. Like I think even behind you can see where Christ is holding, like, I think it's the thumb, and then it touches the finger, the ring finger.
Yeah. Yeah, he's given a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah. That blessing. Like, how come I've seen some of these like Hindu portrayals of their, like the I don't know, Vishnu. I remember that stream you did on the Hindu gods and stuff, and I've seen some of the iconography of theirs having that same blessing. Do you think that comes from? Do you think that symbol is even more ancient than Christianity?
Well, that's when you get into what basically, because we're talking about a hand position, there's only so many hand positions. And so it's almost like the word concept fallacy, right? So we're using the same words, but it means different things. Nous in Orthodoxy means something different than when you read Plato. Both of them are in Greek, different paradigms. So I do not know. Again, I am not an expert or could even unpack. Maybe Seraphim knows more like the meaning of the hand.
It makes the first two letters of Christ in Greek. You know, it makes an X and a for us an X and a P. You know, the K and an R. If you have to kind of look at it, trying to notice it. You know, it's kind of hard to get it. But the symbol on your hand makes the two letters of Christ's name. Mm-hmm. That's why it would be a bit weird to say the Hindus did it first. You know.
No, I'm not. That. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I know you're not claiming that. I'm just saying that it would be weird to claim that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not
especially because it's from the Greek. They didn't speak that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. I kind of wonder if there was, because you know how like Christ is in the high priest in the order of Melchizedek, which is the heavenly priesthood before the Levite priesthood. Like I kind of wonder if like, because they talk about the logos spermaticos, and I kind of wonder if there's like. Some of that ancient practice may have made it around to other religions, and that's how they could have anticipated Christ in some way. Yeah.
But I definitely believe in logos spermaticos, and that there's, like pieces of logos all over these other cultures. And that's where, God's going to judge people accordingly. Some, like I always say, some Chinese dude that lives on Wudong Mountain that has never even heard of Jesus Christ or Christianity, Paul says the morality and the teachings of Christ are written on your heart, and that's what we're judged by. So, I don't know. I don't know his salvation. I don't make a claim. To my understanding, the church doesn't make a claim about that. We would say, if he wants to be assured of his salvation, then he needs to become Christian, ideally Orthodox, and participate in that revelatory reality. But, people can only know what they know. And is God going to, that's where people, you're Christian, so God's going to condemn a man who's never heard of Christ. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm not God, so I don't know what, but that man's going to be judged because God took on human form. He has a perfect human heart. That's why all our hearts are going to be judged against, is the perfect heart of the incarnate God. And it's like, once you see that, that's the only one that has an objective standard for judgment for all people, because all people are going to be judged on their heart.
No, I absolutely agree.
So, you got any questions or any more comments before we hop off? Seraphim, you got anything?
No, I'm good. It's late here, I may, if you do another panel stream, I may appear here, It's
feel free, man.
I can't get out of my house,
No, feel free. I think I'm going to start doing maybe one these once a week. I was thinking about doing maybe one on who's to blame for modern dating, men or women.
Women all day, man.
It's a bit on us too.
Yeah, well, that one's almost like the chicken and the egg. Is it the men that simped and cucked and allowed the women to get that way? Or you're talking about the way the women are right now? It's like
a bit more... Yeah, and that will be a bit more disparate,
Yeah.
Because in here, this topic right now, you kind of expect that most people are going to talk about the church before the nations, on an Orthodox channel. But talking about dating, just mention the topic and me and David are disagreeing.
Right.
It would be fun.
Yeah. Well, David, thank you so much for the support, brother. Thanks for hopping in. Anything you want to share with the people before getting off?
Oh no, nothing really. Just God bless everybody. That's all I gotta say.
You guys.
Me on.
Seraphim, God bless you, man. Stay safe in Brazil. I know you guys had basically a communist takeover, it seemed like.
No, I mean, it's a bit exaggerated, nothing too out of the normal here.
Okay. All right.
You guys, you got to overthrow your. You got to put Bolsonaro back in there, man.
Nah, it's not that easy, I get the sentiment, there are a lot of things happen. If we have another, loser stream with some time. Maybe we can talk about it, but it's a whole topic. There's no need to get into
Yeah.
it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to
God
everybody
bless you
again
guys.
who's
Good luck.
watching. God bless everybody. Thank you all for being here. Special shout out to all the super chatters. Special shout out to all the new members. Let me give everybody a special thanks that became a member. 1 second here. I know the first one was our beloved Amptown 1. She actually goes to my parish. Amptown 1, Well Emmanuel, Sumeria Anna, the new Cooler Will Smith, Vera Moss, and Ed. Thank you all so much for becoming members. I truly do appreciate it. And then for all the people who super chatted and supported, shout out to Valentine, shout out to John Bollerman, shout out to Warren Hesse, or Heiss, I'm sorry. Philo, shout out to you. Shout out to Veronica. Shout out to Rusky B. Shout out to Simon the amputee. God bless you, brother, and hope to see you in Montanica. Shout out to Santi's World. Shout out to our beloved David Franco Jr. right here. Shout out to Dr. Vagisil, the busiest doctor in town. Shout out to Joseph Newton. And shout out to Maximus Pike. God bless everybody. Thank you all for all the support. And I will be back Wednesday, actually with another panel, really. King Pill's going to join me. We're going to be talking about journeys into Orthodox. He's going to share his, and then we're just going to open it up, and people can talk about their journey into Orthodoxy, the good, the bad, and the ugly, demonic attacks, blissful experiences, mystical transcendence, whatever it may be. And so we hope to do that Thursday night. So I hope to see everybody then. God bless you guys. And until then,
That's on this Thursday.
This Thursday, yeah. So 2 nights.
Yeah, I'll be free for it.
Yeah, well, join. You can tell us a little bit
yeah.
about your journey, and for a lot of people, you get on your journey into Orthodoxy, things get a little bit crazy, demonic attacks and whatnot. Shout out to Nick Offinger. Nick, you better go to Montanica, bro. And shout out to Rachel Wilson in the chat. I see her. Shout out to Rachel. Go follow her new YouTube channel. God bless her and Andrew. But again, I will see you all Thursday night. Until then.